This video will show you how to dilate objects in the geometry sticky of Classpad.net. So let's get a geometry sticky out. So I'm going to click somewhere, choose geometry, and it opens my sticky window. Normally, when we go up to settings, the three dots, I usually turn off auto labeling, but because we're doing a transformation, I'm going to leave that on for now. So the first thing is you want to get an object or something that you want to dilate. So I like to use the polygon tool, or I could just use my draw tool and draw a polygon. So let's make some kind of shape. And it doesn't matter what it is, just make a shape. So there's my shape. And now dilation means we can either shrink it or enlarge it. And so we need to basically command the sticky or the geometry tool to do that to our object. So there's a couple ways to go about it, and I will show you both. So first, you could just go to the commands, which are over here on this arrow that's off to the side. And depending where your sticky is, sometimes that arrow is on the left, sometimes it's on the right. So let's go into, got to make sure you're in the selection key. Let's go into construct, and you'll notice you have your choices. And so we're looking for dilation. And when you click it, up here at the top, you see directions. So it says select the objects you'd like to dilate. So I want to select this entire object, so I'm going to click in the center of it. If you want more than that being dilated, maybe you have several things you're going to dilate, you can select them as well, but when you're done, you hit OK. And then it says select a point. So dilation requires a point of dilation, meaning where is your object going to be heading towards if you're shrinking it, if your scale factor is less than 1, or where is it heading away from if your scale factor is larger than 1. You can use points within the objects themselves, so let's do that first. So let's say this is the point we want to dilate towards. So we're going to click a point from the object. And the first thing that pops up is basically a dilation box, and it's asking you, how do you want to dilate? Do you want to dilate? And so here's where you're putting in your scale factor. So let's say we want to dilate and make the object smaller. So we're going to choose a number less than 1. So let's just do 0.5 to start with. And if the minute I hit execute or enter, depending on how you typed it in, you're going to see that object dilated half the size. So this second dilation, this second object here, we probably should have changed the color first, but is exactly the same as far as angles and shape, but it is smaller. So everything about it is 1/2. So if you were to measure corresponding sides, you'd see that their measurements are half. If you were to measure the angles, they are the same. So we can start discovering properties about dilation. So that's one way to do things. Let's get rid of this dilation, and let's actually do that and change our properties so that we have a different colored dilation coming in. So one way to do a dilation is to use a dilation point that's within the object you're trying to dilate. Another way is to do the dilation point outside of your object. So let's actually do that. So now we're going to do dilation again. And we're going to select our object again, but this time we're going to select the point that I have up here outside of the shape. And so right now, notice it highlighted that around because right now the dilation doesn't exist. I haven't given it a scale, so it's technically 1. Let's do it a little bit bigger than the other object, so 1.2. And so what happens is this dilation point is controlling the location of my dilated object. And it is now, and so if I get closer, it's going to be right on it. So the point, if you choose a point outside of your object, then you can control it using that point. And so this is 1.2 times larger, so dilated larger than the original. So these are basically the way to do this with dilations is you select your object, you select your point of dilation, whether it's outside the object or in the object. I could move this dilation point into the object. Let's see what happens if I do that. And so now it just kind of surrounds it. So the point of dilation controls where your image is going to appear when you do dilation. Another way to do dilations is we can change the scale factor, by the way, just simply by clicking on it. So now let's do 0.5 again, and we'll see a dilated object that's half the original, right? So you can change it manually, or what I like to do is use a slider. And so that means instead of putting in a specific number, put in a variable. So maybe we put in a D to stand for dilation. And now I have a slider over here that controls my dilation with this dilation point. And watch what happens as it dilates and gets larger. It goes off the screen, but if I go smaller, it actually is smaller. So I can actually kind of control what's happening by looking at the slider. So this is a really nice way to explore. So when is the dilation exactly the same? It's when they're 1, right? When is it larger? If you have a number, if you have a number larger than 1, your dilation is larger. If you have a number smaller than 1, it's smaller. What happens if I go into the negatives? Oh, it flips it and changes it. So lots of different things you can do. I really love using a slider for dilation, but you don't have to. You can just change the numbers. And you, again, once you have your dilation box here, you can change it to be whatever you want, a variable for a slider or a specific scale factor.